if this is one of your first cars, you're better off in this or a Miata or something like that than you would be like a GT Mustang. Hey guys, DFWs Cars here. I'm here today with the awesome Toyota 86. You may have known it as the Scion before that, and the Subaru BRZ. I lumped those together, and I'll talk about why in a little bit in the video. Really excited for this car though. It seems ready to go. Let's go check it out. So my particular press car doesn't have it, but there's actually a Toyota Subaru logo normally right there. I promise you it is there. I can overlay a picture now. Even the trunk lid here, as you can see, says Subaru on it. So that is definitely a shared part between the two cars. There's a lot of Subaru in this car, even though you're buying a Toyota badged car. It is Fuji Heavy Industries Limited, not Toyota as I've seen on other Toyota cars. I thought that was kind of interesting.
If you're not familiar with the background on this car and thinking, hey, this looks like that Subaru or old Scion, you would be right, minus the LEDs in front and back, and the badges, of course. They're very similar cars. I kind of like this color, too. I think it works well in this car.
In this particular vehicle, love the rims on there. Even the side vents, even though they aren't really functional, I think they look nice on this car. It's very sleek looking, you know, from here forward. But also, you know, nice roof line back there, nice flared fenders. This is a good looking car, and it's one that drives as good as it looks, as we'll talk about in the drive review. Before that, some of the changes for the Toyota 86 for this badging here, besides of course all the Toyota logos, is this badging here, as well as that same badging as you can see on the steering wheel, which we'll talk about on the interior part. But the interior is really not bad on this car. There is the Alcantara up top there, the metal on the doors there. The steering wheel is, you know, very sporty looking, very nice. Loving that new logo on there. Talking about getting back to the shared parts, when you go into settings on here, there is one called Vehicle, and that just shows the IM, the CHR, or Other, and literally it changes like the sound profiles and everything for all the vehicles this head unit does go in. It's a pretty decent stereo for like a, you know, standard system, by the way.
This one has the manual climate control. It's okay. It's functional. The switches for Subaru's Toyota standards don't feel all that nice, but they work. It does work. Also, this one has the manual, which I enjoyed. I had fun with. I also had fun with the automatic when I drove it on the track. I'll talk more about that later on, though.
And as you'd expect, there is a track mode, which is really a little bit like a drift mode. And then the automatic transmission actually has a few more settings here you lose. More Alcantara coming back around to the ear, more Alcantara over there, some chrome pieces. I like the metal pedals down on this guy as well. For the interior, I wouldn't say it's particularly like high end, but for, you know, the price of the car, it's a nice interior. These seats are nicely bolstered and you know, have a very sporty, cool look to them. The center console kind of has a fun feature. If I didn't have my radar detector here, there's a extra plug in the glove box there. I could move these cup holders up here and they would fit nicely, or back there. Kind of a clever little thing. Not a whole lot of storage here, but you know, there are a few storage spaces, including a glove box. So compared to like a Miata, this is actually more livable, I think, as a daily. We'll talk about that in a bit. I'm going to talk about back seat room on this car, and I think you'll see why. I have a feeling it's there for insurance reasons, much like on the 911. I mean, in a pinch, you could bring a kid or a smaller person back here, you know, if the driver scrunches up. So I actually was blessed enough to drive an automatic one of these, the Toyota 86, and a track package version of the Subaru sibling, and they are very close cars. Toyota's working on a car with BMW. I feel like it'll be quite a bit different. It's going to come down to brand preference between the Subaru and the Toyota, really. If you're a Toyota guy, you'll get this. If you had the Scion before and want to continue that, you'll probably get the Toyota. Subaru is just as good a car, though, and has a few little cool option packages, which I think were kind of neat. Anyway, the manual shifter is kind of weird. You have to put it in reverse by like moving a knob up. Definitely, you know, a unique one there. We are now reversing. That is good. I was rolling forward earlier. So let me talk about that first. Having driven both the automatic and manual of this car on the track, because they were, you know, fairly affordable tires and they weren't mine, I got to do a little more drifting than I might normally do in a car. And what was interesting about that is that I preferred the automatic to drift. It actually had a sport mode and a few more special mode options, and I could focus 100% on my drifting and making sure that, you know, that didn't turn into a spin, and not have to worry about being shifting as much. And I still could. I had the option to manually shift, but if I didn't want to, I didn't have to. So although on this car the automatic is a little slower, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Like I said, I usually recommend automatics personally just and like them because they're faster. Here there's a unique case for the automatic, but man, the manual is a lot of fun as well. On that note, you may actually have to get an automatic because a lot of the dealers carry that, and Toyota is limiting the production of this car to, I believe, 8,600. May not sound like a lot. I have a feeling Toyota based that number on how many Scions they sold, you know, last year, and just kind of adjusted it accordingly. But if you can get one of the 8,600 of these, I recommend it. I recommend you buy this car or the Subaru version because frankly, outside this and the Miata, you know, affordable sports cars are becoming extremely rare. Now let me compare this to the Miata. I don't know if that's as close as competitor. Let me know in the comments, and I've probably driven some of his other competitors and just not realized they were. This has a little bit more extra weight, but also a little bit more extra power. So it could be faster. I've said it can be 250 to 300 horsepower this chassis could handle, but it's not actually slow. Whereas the Miata, sometimes I was like, if I was passing or whatnot, I'm like, oh, I need more. So the engine on this car is great, and I've seen turbocharged and supercharged variants of these, and they're pretty quick. So with all the money you're saving, you could actually do that. Steering is incredibly precise. It's what makes me so enjoy drifting in this car. So communicative. It's one of the best steering systems out there, hands down. You know, Miatas also have great steering there. I couldn't declare a winner between the two, but needless to say, this one is great. Brakes are very, very good, very grippy. If you're tracking a lot, you could probably use a slight upgrade, you know, to the brakes. I believe they offer a Brembo brake package. I know at least Subaru in their track package has some upgraded brakes. I would kind of recommend that if you're thinking about tracking and stuff like that. But for everyday, you know, canyon carving, stuff like that, even the standard brakes are pretty good. Even the exhaust note. The exhaust on this car looks pretty good. Let's see if it sounds as mean as it looks. Let me go down in a second here. It's pretty good. It sounds quite nice. The engine really does sound good in this car, and with like an aftermarket exhaust or something. Hold on, let me give you a little more. I'm being instructed to shift now. Could have gone into second or third there. Whoop. Third was the right choice. I like how on the gauge they do things properly, and you can tell this is a track car because the tach is in the center and is the main focus there, and then speed, you know, is just peripheral on a track. But just so you don't get a ticket, you do have miles per hour in there as well. Just wish Toyota, or more likely I would think Subaru, could release a turbocharged or supercharged version. That way you can keep your warranty. They make the money instead of aftermarket tuners. Even if they don't sell a lot of them, just make it a custom order so people can drive this, say love it, and then they can just, you know, order up, charge or turbocharge. I would assume it's going to be turbocharged based on this engine being a shared boxer engine shared with, you know, like Subaru and stuff like that. But man, that would be awesome. I wouldn't even need to drive it to say, yeah, I drove this car. God, I'd love it if it had a little more power. Sign me up. Where do I sign? So that leads in nicely to the would I buy this car with my own money part of the review. If I could pick one up, and just did a lot of tracking and a lot of drifting, I might even, and I had to daily drive it, I might even take it over the Miata because of the, back seat where you can throw things, and, a little bit more trunk, but I would miss the convertible, not gonna lie about that. But what would hold me back from actually buying it with my own money, much like a Miata, is the power. Certain very curvy tracks, or if you're drifting, absolutely, I agree, the power is fine. Drive it and see what you think. Like I said, if you're coming out of an older car or something like that, this will probably be more than enough power and more than you'll ever need. But if you're, if you've driven like 250, 300 horsepower cars, even if they're heavier, they'll probably be wanting just a little more, which you can do with the aftermarket, but that gets pricey and would avoid your new car warranty. So would I buy one of these used? Yes. If your concern is it will be too slow, it won't. Like I said, I just tend to track my cars a lot and do tracks that seem to have a lot of straights. So that's just me kind of probably being pedantic, and that's more of a comment for Toyota Subaru than, actually people considering buying this car. If this is one of your first cars, you're better off in this or a Miata or something like that than you would be like a GT Mustang or anything like that, because too much power for that chassis and for a new driver. This has just enough to let you have fun, but not necessarily get you in trouble. Me, I want to get in a little bit of trouble. Like a newer driver, if your child's considering this, I think this would be a great car for them, because although it's fun and stylish and sporty and everything, a young person would want in a car, I could recommend this. I would get my kid one of these. It's very predictable too, the handling. One thing I haven't talked about yet, I just realized, is the handling, which like I said, this is a great drift car like the Miata. You know exactly when it's going to give up, how it's going to give up, and it's just easy to manage. Unlike a lot of other cars out there, like more powerful cars, or like bigger sports coupes, like say a Mustang or a Camaro, they reach their limit and then, it's a little tougher to manage. This car, you know exactly what's going on. You know when those little 215s are about to break loose, and then you know what you have to do to correct it. I love the suspension tuning on this car. It's fairly comfortable in the week I've been driving it for everyday use, yet it has a sporty nature, which I just love. Until next time, my speedy racers, drive on.